Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and I am delighted to have back with us today Bryan Fischer. I just really appreciate what this man does and the work that he does. He's the Director of Issue Analysis for the American Family Association, and he provides information on a wide range of public policy topics. He has his own host of Focal Point radio program on the American Family Radio Network, and we're here today to talk about the Veterans Affairs and what happened during the Christmas season. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, he is a 49er fan. And
how can you tell, Perry? How can you tell?
And I have to tell you, Bryan, I think you and I are the only two in the building.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, Perry, the last time I was on, it was right after Stanford had just thumped Oregon, and I am a Stanford alum, so I was wearing some kind of a Stanford lanyard or something like that. So I had a little bit of fun. You know, I was going to take the Stanford lanyard off before I went on the program. I said, no, wait a minute. I'm talking to somebody from Oregon. I need to keep it on.
Yeah.
But anyway, you and me, Perry, we're going for the Niners on Sunday, and I'm rooting for the Saints on Saturday. I want the Saints to beat the Seahawks up there in Seattle, because if the Niners win on Sunday against Carolina and the Saints win, then the Niners would get the Saints at home for the NFC Championship. So I'm pulling big time for the Saints.
Where in the world did you find that sweatshirt? I've never seen one that big and bold before.
That's I believe in supporting my teams, but I try to do it in a way that's subtle and not real. This was kind of the most muted expression of loyalty I could find.
Well, good. I love it. Nice to see you, friend. Happy New Year. I heard bits and pieces about the VA being mistreated during Christmas time, but I had no idea it was at this level. Did you?
Well, no, it surprised me. As we began to poke into this and research it, we discovered that there's just an alarming level of anti-Christian bigotry and censorship and repression in the hospitals that are run by the Veterans Administration. These are the hospitals that take care of veterans that have bled and lost limbs, and many of whom have died in the service of this country to protect our liberties, to protect our freedoms. I mean, they took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States when they enlisted, and many of them paid the ultimate price, and a number of them are in hospitals now because of wounds that they experienced in the interest of liberty, willing to risk their lives to protect our freedoms. And the very first liberty that the founders protected in the First Amendment in the Constitution was the free exercise of religion. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that they protected in our Constitution, and that's what these veterans were out there to defend and prepared again to pay the ultimate price in order to do it. So it's just reprehensible that the Veterans Administration would be suppressing the free exercise of religion, which these men were willing to bleed and die to protect.
Well, so where did this edict come from?
Well, we really don't know, but it's interesting, Perry, that there is a 2011 federal consent decree that specifically prohibits the Veterans Administration from suppressing Christian speech. So when they did this, they were actually violating federal law. They were violating a federal consent decree. And I don't know, Perry, if you'd want me to take a minute and just run through a couple of the examples of this.
Please, yeah.
Your listeners have an idea of exactly how egregious the offenses are that we're talking about.
Please.
And this goes from different states, different parts of the country, so it's systemic. It's not just isolated to one hospital or one region. In Augusta, Georgia, there were some high school carolers that showed up at the VA hospital there to sing Christmas carols to the veterans, and the hospital said, no, you can only sing pre-approved government Christmas songs that the government has pre-approved. You can't sing any Christmas carols that mention the name of Christ. Well, the First Amendment, Perry, says that the one thing that the federal government cannot do, it is prohibited from doing, is prohibiting the free exercise of religion. The central government cannot do that. The Veterans Administration, they're a part of the federal government, the central government, so they're violating the free exercise of religion clause in the First Amendment. So these Christmas carolers, these high school Christmas carolers, and I commend them for doing this, they said, look, we're not going to sing. If you're going to censor and tell us the kind of songs, the government pre-approved songs that we can sing, we're not even going to bother. Now, in Iowa City, Iowa, the American Legion sent some volunteers to a VA hospital to hand out gifts to veterans, and the gifts were wrapped in paper that had the word Merry Christmas on it. And the Veterans Administration said, no, you can't come in here if the gifts that you want to give to these veterans have Merry Christmas on it. There was in Montgomery, Alabama, and this was a particularly offensive case because there was a woman by the name of Jordan McClendon. She's 20 years old. Her grandfather was in this VA hospital. She prepared 100 gifts that she wrapped herself in order to cheer up the veterans that were in there with her grandfather. And again, because these gift bags had the word Merry Christmas on it, she was not allowed to distribute those goodie bags inside the Veterans Hospital. This was on Christmas Eve. So, you know, that is really particularly offensive. And then in Dallas, Texas, high school children, local school children, not high school children, but children at a local school had prepared handwritten Christmas cards. I mean, they had taken the time to handwrite these Christmas cards in order to cheer up these veterans. And some of these Christmas cards, well, probably all of them, contained phrases like Merry Christmas or God bless you. And the Veterans Hospital there refused to accept delivery of these handwritten Christmas cards that were designed to cheer up these veterans because they included the words Merry Christmas and God bless you. And, you know, Trey, one other thing that I want to mention as we go forward here is, you know, Christmas is a federal holiday.
Right.
This is a federal holiday approved by the Congress of the United States, signed into law in 1872. It's a federal holiday as much as the 4th of July is, or Labor Day, or Memorial Day, or President's Day, or Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This is a federal holiday. And so in reality, these federal officials were forbidding these American citizens from celebrating one of our official holidays just because it centered around the birth of Christ. So all of this is just egregious and offensive. Almost, it's hard to calibrate how offensive this is.
Stunning, absolutely stunning, Bryan. It tells me also that people had to be trained and told what to do when this happened. So somewhere along the line, these people were prepared to push back when these offers of Christmas expressions were being given. I mean, this has to come down from the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, you would think.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And, you know, and the confirmation of that, Perry, is the fact that, you know, you're talking about Augusta, Georgia, Iowa City, Iowa, Montgomery, Alabama, Dallas, Texas, all over the fruited plain. These incidents are happening. So it's not isolated. It's got to be, you know, coming from the top. And, you know, there is a saying that a fish rots first from the head. Right. And that's why when we sent an action alert out, American Family Association, we sent an action alert out to all of the members of our electronic network, and we encourage them to send a letter to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. His name is Eric Shinseki. He's a former general in the military. And this has to somehow be coming from his office, at least with his approval or with his permission, if not at his direction.
All right. Now, I'm not looking for conspiracy here, but on the other hand, this has to come out of the White House too. It would seem to me it fits what we see coming out of the White House, where there is just seemingly no protection of the Christian religion whatsoever.
Well, and I think you're right about that. We've seen an unparalleled, unprecedented level of hostility toward the Christian faith coming out of this administration. This year, for instance, their Christmas card did not even have the word Christmas in it. It had a picture of the White House and a picture of their dogs, or a dog, or something like that, the White House pet dog. There was no mention of Christ, no mention even of the word Christmas. I think it used, you know, holiday greetings or, you know, whatever. And we've seen, particularly in the military in general, that's where this is a real problem. You're seeing a real repression of Christian speech, Christian expression, religious liberty in the United States military, all the way from chaplains being forbidden to read a letter from a Catholic bishop dealing with the issue of same-sex marriage. You got chaplains being told, look, if you can't get on board with the gay agenda, you need to find another career. You know, so you have this system-wide, really, in the United States military, and of course, Veterans Administration is a part of that whole network. And I agree with you, Perry. I think this antipathy toward Christianity and Christian values is coming from the Oval Office. That's where it's traced to. Got a president that's very friendly toward the Islamic faith, can't stop saying wonderful things about the Islamic faith, but at the same time is out there repressing expressions of Christian faith.
All right, let me take a break here, Brian. We'll come back. I want to know, can we push back? And are veterans pushing back? And our special guest today is Bryan Fischer, Director of Issues Analysis there for American Family Association. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and our special guest today is Joe Montana from from the American Family Association, better disguised as Bryan Fischer. He's the Director of Issues Analysis for AFA, and we're talking about a very serious topic, and one that, quite frankly, stunning and just turns your gut when you hear it, and that is that how the veterans in these hospitals and other veterans facilities around the country literally were denied their Christmas in so many ways. Brian, let me ask you this. Was there any pushback from the veterans themselves when this stuff occurs?
Well, yeah, and veterans' families were horrified to learn of this. I think they registered their complaints. We certainly, the action alert that we sent out gave our folks, a lot of whom are veterans. You know, we have a lot of veterans and families of veterans in our electronic network at the American Family Association. They're some of our most faithful and loyal supporters. And I know that they weighed in on this. They sent letters to General Shinseki. It's not too late, actually. If folks want to go to our website, afa.net, and go to the Action Alert button, I think this is about the third Action Alert down. There's an opportunity still for them to weigh in and let the head of the Veterans Administration, General Shinseki, know that this is not acceptable to the American people, and particularly to veterans and to the families of veterans. And Perry, I want to follow up on that, but I want to make a couple of other observations first. You know, as we mentioned in the first segment, this is a federal holiday, right, just like the 4th of July, just like the President's Day. And what the Veterans Administration has done here is it's no different than saying to American citizens in the VA hospital, yeah, you can celebrate the President's birthday, but we don't want anybody to mention the name of George Washington or mention the name of Abraham Lincoln, and we don't want any of their pictures on display anywhere in connection with their birthdays. Or to celebrate the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. And to tell citizens you cannot mention his name during this celebration, you cannot have pictures of him anywhere in the celebration. Or to tell these veterans, you can celebrate the 4th of July, it's a federal holiday, but you cannot have any American flags anywhere in your celebration. You cannot sing any patriotic songs. I mean, it's just that absurd. It's that ludicrous. You know, and if you think about it, you know, I believe you can make a case that Christmas is actually in our Constitution, because if you look at the dating of the Constitution, it is dated in the year of our Lord, 1787. And not only in the year of our Lord, 1787, but in the year of the independence of the United States, the 12th. In other words, they dated the Constitution in 1787 from two dates. There were two dates that the Founding Fathers considered to be the most important dates in the history of the United States of America. The first was the birth date of Jesus Christ, the very first Christmas, and the second was the birth date of the United States of America. So our founders considered the birth of Christ such a significant event that they dated our most important legal documents from the very first Christmas, from the date of his birth. So I think you can make a case that Christmas itself is in the Constitution. You know, and the founder said this is in the year of our Lord, first of all, Lord, so they are acknowledging that he is the master and proper Lord of the United States, and it's the year of our Lord. All the Founding Fathers say this individual is our Lord, and we're dating it from his birth date as our Lord and Master. So Christmas is in the Constitution, particularly absurd and ridiculous that acknowledging that fact would be denied in our hospitals. And there is Jeff Miller is from Florida. He is I forget his specific title. He's the chairman of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, and he has written a very strongly worded letter to General Shinseki saying, look, I want an explanation here. This kind of censorship is unconscionable. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. We need to have some accountability here. Representative Martha Roby down in Alabama, she is the representative of the 20-year-old girl that prepared those 100 goodie bags for not just her grandfather but other veterans and was turned away by. She's outraged. She's going to follow up. So we have some representatives that are going to track this thing down, and there's going to be some accountability here.
That's wonderful. What can the average Christian do? I know they can go to the AFA.net, the ActionNet, and get some sign on there. But is there anything else we can do?
Well, I think it'd be a good thing to contact our representatives. You know, every American has one representative, one and only one. We've got 2 senators, but we only have 1 representative. And I would encourage folks to contact their representative and find out if they're aware of what's happened in the VA hospitals. And if they're not, make them aware of some of this information and then press them to hold the VA accountable. You know, one of the things that's very clear in the Constitution is that it's the responsibility of Congress to write the rules for the military. That's not the responsibility of the president. He doesn't write the rules that govern the military. That's specifically designated as a responsibility of Congress in our Constitution. And so members of Congress, your representative, can do something about this. They can support what Representative Miller has done. They can use their influence as a lawmaker invested with constitutional authority to set the rules for the military and follow through on this. And trust me, Perry, these representatives, they count. They count phone calls. They count emails. And it doesn't take, the threshold of the number of phone calls that has to be reached before they pay attention is not that high. Yeah. So they get a dozen, they get 2 dozen, they get 3 dozen phone calls on the same topic. Their constituents, the people that vote for them, that are going to have the opportunity to send them back to Washington in November or keep them home, they're going to...
Oh, did we lose them? All right, we'll see if we can reconnect with them. Bryan Fischer with us today, Director of Issues Analysis for American Family Association. Let me encourage you, what he is talking about there, you can go to the AFA website. It's afa.net. And by the way, it is a terrific resource. Their website has a lot of information on it, and they have the action alerts, which you may want to subscribe to, and you can get there. And you can also go there and get the latest that they have as it relates to the Veterans Affairs being censored for their Christmas expressions there at the patients there at the VA hospitals across the country. A sad, sad thing to see and to witness. And I just want to say to Bryan and all the people there at American Family Association, thank you for your hard work and what you folks do. It is absolutely wonderful, and he stays on top. I'm sorry we lost connection with him. That's sometimes the risk when you're Skyping people in. But again, afa.net is the website to go to be a part of or to get the information and then maybe even sign some of the petitions. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and my guest is Guy Hatcher. He is called the Legacy Guy, or at least that's one of his nicknames. He's also known as the table or the kitchen table converter. I'll have him explain that in just a moment. But he's authored a book. It's really a fascinating book called Your Future Reflection. how to leave a legacy beyond money. There's a picture of it there on the screen for those watching on the Dove TV, and we're going to talk to him about it. Hi, Guy. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you doing, Perry?
Good. Nice to see you. Where are we Skyping you in from?
Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay. Well, you got warm weather, cold weather. What you got going on down there?
Kind of average today. It's been a little cooler at the first part of this week, and cold for us is anything below 32, which is sad, but that's true.
Okay.
But it's going to be warm today, so that's good.
All right. Hey, nice to have you. Tell us about your background and why you got into this topic.
Well, long story, about 26 years ago, Pierre, I came in through the financial services industry and really started specializing in estate planning, working with attorneys. I'm a certified financial planner. And throughout my career, probably have sat down with about 10,000 families, helped them really define, how they're going to hand off their estate to the next generation. And what was interesting to me is there's always this burning desire as I sit down with someone maybe in their 70s, to really hand that torch off or pass that baton efficiently. And so they always come to me and say, Guy, will you help me with the assets? But Perry, what I started realizing, it's really not about the assets. It's really about more. In the last 2 years, I started this journey of research in Scripture, and that's basically how we ended up with the book, Your Future Reflection.
All right. So it seems like a lot of people are hung up in leaving their family wealth. And you're more concerned beyond that.
That's true. I mean, where this journey really started for me, once again, I've sat with so many people in their latter days. I've handed, the estate off to the next generation. And one thing I kept always seeing is when mom and dad have both passed away, that, normally the kids are going to be arguing over a bag of cash or maybe a family heirloom. And what they're really discussing and where the pain is really coming from, Perry, from my experience, is it's really about the lack of the affirmation or the blessing that they did not feel like they received as a child. So it's always interesting to me, son is saying, well, Daddy loved you more. He came to more of your dance recitals and my football games. And nearly every family is this way. Mm-hmm. And it's really sad. And I just think that's how Satan actually comes in and destroys future generations. And I think it's just a more effective way if the patriarch and matriarch, could actually communicate more effectively beforehand, and also in how they hand the assets off. It would actually be easier for the next generation to accept it.
So when you sit down with the family and you're starting this process, how do you walk them through this?
Great question. I mean, everybody always wants to start with the assets. So as a professional, sure, I'm going to look at their net worth. I'm going to look, do they have a will? Do they have a trust? What type of relationship do they have with the kids? Are they close? Is it kind of distant? And those type of things. But really what I'm going to try to take them to is the things I think that matter most. And what we've done in the book is we broke it down into 5 core components. The first one is what I call heritage. How do you receive the heritage from your parents? And I always like to refer to it as an orchard. Well, when I received mine from my parents, my dad passed away about 6 years ago. I basically looked at things that Dad did great, and I looked at things like, I really don't want to continue that into my children and my next generation. So I started pruning my family tree. So I really talked to them about things that they received from their parents they want to continue going forward, and things they might want to change for the next generation. Second thing we're going to talk about is values. Perry, this is really interesting to me. People live out values, but they're really not identifying what those values are. And so what I've tried to do in the book is say, okay, what are the core values that you as an individual in your faith, about your career, in your relationships with your family, that you would like to communicate and hand off to the next generation? Third thing we get into is vision. How can I really cast strong vision as the patriarch of my family? And I've got 2 girls. I've got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. And what my wife and I are trying to do is communicate, this is where we came from, this is what we believe, and this is where we think God wants you to go forward as of today. We talk about relationships. How do you have healthy relationships? Third-party relationships that you like to continue with the family that are positive, like mentors and leaders in the church or leaders in the community. And then the last thing we get to is the assets. So actually I start with the first 4, and then we slowly actually get back into the assets, how to officially transfer that.
Well, that's wonderful, Guy. That just says a lot. Do you see any differences when it comes to generations, from one generation to another?
Oh, tremendous. You know, in the book, I talk about the different generations, you know, four predominant coming out of, you know, the last 100 years. We got the traditionalists, then we go into the baby boomers, and then we go into what we call the baby busters, and then we get into the mosaics. You know, I'm actually a baby boomer. I was born in 1959. Looking at my generation, coming out of the war that the, you know, states have been in, going into the 60s, seeing all the change that went on in the 60s. We're a very driven generation. But, you know, one other thing I talk about in the book, Perry, is I actually talk about entitlement. And I think that actually played between the boomers and the busters. And the busters, you know, were actually born in 1965 up to 1983. And here's why. And this is something I try to discuss in the book. And I'll kind of share with you how I see it played out every day, is that we've really created that entitlement because as a boomer, what we really did is we drove our bodies to go get what the world says is the real value and the worth today. So we chased the big buck and we chased the dream. Mom came out of the home. She went into the workforce in the 70s. And I think that's when entitlement happened, because what families did is they had success. They had income. And what's really interesting to me, Perry, is they said, we don't want you to have to do what we did. Well, I always laugh at that because actually what I did had a great work ethic, learned to be faithful, learned to be honest. So those are things that I do want to pass on to my children, and which is really interesting. But instantly, a lot of families automatically started spoiling their children with all of the, you know, the wealth and the things coming off the wealth. And I think that's where entitlement really has taken off. So yes, I think the generations and how we look at entitlement, how we look at legacy, how we look at values are totally different, especially in the last two.
Wow. I would imagine in your position, meeting with a variety of generations and then your own personal family, here you are, a late boomer with a young family.
Yes.
Do your kids look at this a little different?
I think they do. Mom and I are both, you know, well mature, as you know, since she's probably watching now, and she'd rather use that word. God bless us, you know, God blessed us late, but you take them when you get them. But I'm going to tell you, as far as I think we're a more established family because we were established emotionally and, of course, financially. And I think I'm a more balanced parent because of that. You know, I have great conversations with the girls, Perry. I mean, I'm talking about legacy. I'm talking about what Mom and I have received and the positives coming out of our family tree and some negatives we do not want to, you know, carry forward. And, you know, I actually bring this up in the book. It's always interesting. I talk about pruning, and I think it's healthy to prune. In the example of even as emotionally healthy and stable as I feel like I am in my, you know, my current age, you know, I actually ask myself periodically, do I think my children will prune? Sure they will, because dads never do it right. Moms never get it totally right. But here's the key. What I'm trying to do in our generational heritage and in our family tree is every generation gets healthier and healthier and more consistent with what the Lord is calling them to do in their life.
That's fascinating. How do people get a copy of your book, Guy?
You can go to Amazon.com and then GuyHatcher.com. We have some other resources. You can go there also, Perry.
All right, GuyHatcher.com or Amazon.com. It's called Your Future Reflection, How to Leave a Legacy Beyond Money. One more quick question before I let you go. At the end of the day, I know you get the assets. And a lot of people will say assets are a result of their profession, their work, their livelihood, when really at the end of the day it's God's blessings. How do you bring that into it?
That is a great point. Great point. I actually just start with those, you know, with that conversation. You know, the reality is this. There are a lot of talented individuals, and most people that I have worked with normally believe it's off of their hard work, and they really don't take God into consideration. As I continue to increase in my faith, I try to share that with other people. It really is the blessings from God, is the reasons that we are getting that. So I just try to bring it up. We try to communicate about that. We try to also communicate that with the next generation, how God has blessed us financially, and how can we incorporate this positively, you know, going, you know, generation after generation.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks, Guy, for your time. Happy New Year to you. Blessings. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right. See you later. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on the Dove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. My guest on this segment is Jerry McGlothlin. He is president of the Special Guests Incorporated, and and also worked with Heads Up Clean TV. I want to say, Jerry, right at the first, my producer and your agency makes me look real good. Thanks, man.
There's an old saying by Vidal Sassoon: if you don't look good, we don't look good.
Oh, thanks for what you do, because you help us get some great guests. I'm really fascinated with your idea here of videos returning America to a moral sanity. Tell us about your vision with this.
Well, it's twofold. One, it's what we want to do ourselves here as special guests and Clean TV, and what we've done for 27 years, booking guests on talk shows like yours to get out the message that the reality-impaired media doesn't seem to want to get out. And then the second part is teaching others how to do the same thing. Now, whether we book guests on talk shows, that might be a little harder for the average person, or whether we make videos for YouTube and things like that, either way we get the message out. So I wanted to explain how simple it is basically to do what we do when it comes to uploading videos on YouTube and the costs involved with that and so forth.
All right. Do you think we can? We can turn the moral tide in this country through this kind of communication?
I think the answer is yes. Richard Viguerie has written in a book about the only two sources that really turned the corner in the election for George Bush over Al Gore, and it's even more true today. He says it's the internet and talk radio. I mean, that's where truth is. That's where freedom is. That's where reality is. I mean, the other stuff is just impaired. It's not really a conservative versus a liberal thing. It's a truth versus lie. Right. And I'm not saying conservatives have the truth in every area, but overall, we represent the truthful side. And liberals overall represent the other side, because their truth is relative. So our goal is to try to get out truth, not conservatism, but truth. You know, if it's true that Barack Obama has a birth certificate, that he should show it. If it's not true, we should be relentless and ask him to show it. The same thing with his college records. I mean, we got one video called Obama, False Hope, False Messiah that's got, I'm looking at here, 1.3 million views right now. We only uploaded it about 5 months ago. I could show somebody how to do that right there in their garage. In fact, I'm in my garage right now. In the background, you see all my storage boxes. And I've got a studio with all these spongy things on the garage wall here. Wow. Acoustical reasons.
Well, what kind of videos have you produced in addition to the one you just mentioned?
Well, let me just take a quick look here. I'll just do the recent ones.
All right.
There's one that it says Obama did not fall far from the tree. It says Obama all in a day's work. I recommend that wholeheartedly. We uploaded it 10 hours ago. We got 97 views in 10 hours. Usually what happens is they freeze the views for one day to make sure they're legitimate views. And then the second day it could go up to 10,000 or something like that. YouTube tends to do that. But in that one, by the way, it's available. All you have to do is put in Clean TV. You go to YouTube and in the search box, you just put in Clean TV. That's CLEAN TV, no spaces or anything. Yeah. Clean TV. And in it, it basically explains that Obama has pretty much gone line by line with Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Is a book that was dedicated to Lucifer, you know, Satan. Right. Says it right in the book. And he basically is following the game plan. We have 8 points in there, or 7 points, excuse me, that show line by line what he's doing, every single thing that's showcased in the book, pretty much to destroy a capitalist system and instill a totalitarian system. So we're warning the world, basically, in that video.
How are you funded? How do you do this?
I'm funded the same way that anybody watching or listening is funded. It costs $0 and 0 cents to do what we do. I kid you not. Let me give you an example.
All right.
Go to a button here on YouTube. It says upload. You click upload, and then you basically select from your nested files the file that you just made. Most laptops come in with a built-in camera, so it doesn't cost you anything. If worse comes to worse, you have to buy one. It's like $19 over at Best Buy or Tiger Direct or whatever. Okay, so then you take your videos, just the way we're talking right now. I could have clicked record, which I didn't. Let's pretend I clicked record to this thing. Then I would just click upload for that particular file name. And so it didn't cost a ton. It's just sweat equity, you know, and you don't really sweat much. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's a labor of love. You click upload and you do it. And you have something just like we got now. Now, if you want to do graphics and music synchronization, etc., I go through a place called iStockPhotos.com. They charge about $1.50 per graphic. Let's say that you do one with takes 5 graphics. So it costs you $7.50 for legal, copyrighted, owned graphics. And you could get free ones too, but I happen to like the quality of iStockPhoto.com. And boom, there you go. So that video costs you $7.50. If you want to have music, lots of free music, budding musicians want to get discovered. So we basically exposed Benghazi, Obama, Hillary Clinton, oversized government, just anything you can name that basically has to do with patriotism or being pro-America. I'm not pro this regime of Obama, but we are pro-American.
So where do you get your information, Jerry? I mean, who helps you with this research so you can put this data up?
Well, people like you help us. We get it from shows like yours or Rush Limbaugh or any other talk show host who bring up something. One good source we put an Alexa toolbar on all our browsers, alexa.com. That will give you, it takes 30 seconds to put it on your browser, and it basically will give you the top trending internet stories of the day. So I'm going to look right now on Alexa right here, and I'll tell you the top story is...
It's live TV, folks.
Yeah, well, let me go to it later then.
Okay. So
Alexa basically has whatever the biggest story of the day is. Sometimes they'll have cute cats jumping through hoops or whatever. A lot of times they'll have political ones as well. Right now, and drudgereport.com is another place we go to very frequently, DRUDGE report.com. Right. So a person can go to those sources, see what the hottest stories are, and that's typically what the television talk show people look at. And as much as I hate to admit it, they also look at New York Times. It's NYT.com. When we book guests on talk shows, I mean, Sean Hannity has indicated to me before he wants whatever is on the front page of the New York Times. So in that case, since it's so liberal, you basically do the story, but you just get rid of the liberal spin. Now, one thing I like to add, if people want to do this, you could go to Windows. You could basically get Windows Movie Maker. It's absolutely free, very intuitive, easy to learn, and that's all you need. And it gives you your dissolves, your frames, your blends, everything you need. Windows Movie Maker is the software. It's free. Or if you want to do what we upgraded to recently, we upgraded to Adobe Premiere Pro. That's for a PC environment. Or you use Final Cut Pro if you're on Mac.
Right.
And those take a little bit more of a learning curve.
Okay. And we've seen it here at the Dove TV. We've had, I think last month, if I remember right, on our own analytics, I think we had 42,000 views of our YouTube videos that we produced here using this show. Like this segment will probably get several 100 hits by the end of the day.
Well, sometimes they go viral without notice, without warning, without expecting them. I mean, all it takes is one person. Let me give you one good site. If you're going to make a video, first place to send it to is westernjournalism.com or WND.com. Either one of those, good for 1,000 hits right off the bat. 1,000 views immediately. If you were to upload this or actually send it to them and offer them to upload it, immediately expect 1,000 views. And there's other ones, like if Drudge Report, for instance, they say submit a story to Drudge. You just keep sending them every day, every hour if you have to. If they put one in, you get 75,000 views within 2 days. So it's all relative to the size. Now, I don't like the Huffington Post; they're too liberal for me, but they're even bigger than Drudge. You could get 600,000 views within a week if they promote the daylights out of it, and the liberals run it through their liberal propaganda factory or whatever they do to do whatever they do. They do it well. I got to admit it. With social media, if you don't have content, you have to, learn the delivery mechanisms.
Yeah. What so far has been your most successful video?
Well, actually, probably I'm not sure if it's the most successful. The most successful one that comes to mind is is Barack Obama a Saudi plant? If you go to YouTube and just put in the word Saudi, Saudi, S-A-U-D-I, and then the word plant, P-L-A-N-T, you'll see a video that's got about 5 million views, and it basically hypothesizes that Saudi Arabia put up the money for Obama to run for office, and that he's not a real citizen, and that he promised that once he put his national health care system into position, that he would do the bidding of the Saudis. But it got delayed, and we are yet to see if he's going to come through on the promise. It was an intercepted communique we got in Arabic language and had translated to English. So that one, between 4.5 and 5 million views so far. Now, if you combine them, ones like that, that's on a lot of websites too. It might have 8 or 9 million views because we allow other people to repost on their sites.
Wow, that's amazing. It would appear to me that when you're having that kind of numbers, that the tide is turning. The information, the truth is getting out.
Well, let me tell you about the tide turning. I started bringing up this point, and you even made it better. You bolstered it more with that last comment. Thank you for that. We did one. I'll give you an example. We did one with Larry Pratt. Have you ever had him? Have we ever booked him on any show with Gun Owners of America, Larry Pratt?
No, should get him.
Oh my goodness! I personally booked him on for the last 20 years on 1,000 shows or whatever. But we recently booked him on 2 shows on Piers Morgan on CNN. One back, and then another one. He beat up Piers Morgan so bad because Piers Morgan says, "Larry Pratt, you are a very stupid man, aren't you?" And Larry looks, huh?
Yeah.
And just walloped him, but without raising his voice. I mean, I got other people to raise their voice. And he just cleaned his plow, and it went viral. Do you know that shortly after that, now when I say this number, I'm not saying how many views he got. I'm saying how many different web pages actually put that video on their site. It was 200,000 websites. Now let's pretend each website only got 100 views on average. Wow. Some maybe got 200,000, some might have gotten 2. But let's say each one got 100 views. And 200,000, you multiply that by 100, and wow. It's 20 million people that saw that. Almost anybody watching this right now, I bet you they've already seen that viral video of Piers Morgan duking it out over gun rights with Larry Pratt. And then Piers was, wise enough to put him on a second time after that. He thought he could beat him up the second time. Didn't happen then either.
Well, there seems to have an impact on all this, Jerry. I mean, you probably read the shop talk like I do, and I see where CNN made some changes, but they're not getting the increase in numbers. Now they're talking about a wholesale cleaning, and I say all that to say that apparently the left just can't seem to get traction in media because people know that it's not the truth.
Well, this may sound a little self-serving, but when Fox News had very, very low ratings and they were trying to be the big boy in the street, we provide them with a tremendous amount of the guests to help them rise to the top where they are today. We gave our guests mostly to Fox and withheld them oftentimes from the other networks. We represent people like Phyllis Schlafly for the last 20 years, booking her on shows from Eagle Forum, and Larry Pratt, and anything to do with the fighting abortion or pornography or big government, anything that champions personal responsibility, or Judeo-Christian ethic, etc. That's us, and that's what we dedicated ourselves to for many, many years.
Well, it's just wonderful. And by the way, I've enjoyed for many, many years having Phyllis on. In fact, I had the high honor of receiving one of her Eagle Awards years ago, and people like that are still in the fight, and it's just been amazing. Where do you see talk television going? One of the complaints that we're hearing is this stepping over of each other is getting old and people are tired of it. Where do you see that going?
My goodness, I'm glad you asked that question. That should have been the first question I answered for everybody. Excellent question. Everything that you see today should be gone in 3 years. Anything you see, including Fox News, every stinking thing you see on CNN, on Fox, everything else is going to go over to the internet. So this very show we're on today could very well be bigger than MSNBC. But let me clarify this. I have an inside source at MSNBC who was considering disclosing the number of their viewers, but they finally said, I really I cannot disclose both of our viewers. I mean, the ones I booked a guest on MSNBC whose book on on Amazon.com was approximately 1,700. That means there was only 1,699 books higher than him in the whole world, either 10 million books or whatever on Amazon. Wow. And I got an MSNBC interview. Do you know what? The next hour, every hour, 1 minute after the hour, you click refresh and you see the new numbers. The lower the numbers, the better. Number one would be the best. Guess what it went to from 1,700? Guess what it went down to an hour after the interview?
I have no idea.
Measure it. It didn't go down. It went up. It went from 1,700 to 1,800, which means, in theory, that everybody returned their books. But it's impossible. They couldn't have returned them in at that time. But it just shows you it's virtually, the plus or minus error of 2% on political polls. I'm telling you right there, I saw they had no audience. They had a negative audience, technically speaking. And CNN is out of the news business. They just announced we're not in the news business anymore. We're going to do other things, like History Channel type of stuff, whatever. So the last player standing is Fox. And let me tell you something. Change, one thing that Obama said is true, the word change. He promised change, he delivered change for the worst. But look at Blockbuster Video. They first came in there and they changed the whole dynamic thing. Everybody went to Blockbuster Video and they annihilated the mama and pop store. Just this last week, Blockbuster's closed the last store. Now it's on Netflix, okay? And just as Fox News is top of the heap right now, they're going to be gone in their current incarnation into something new. They'll either be gone or they'll be on the internet or largely on the internet, maybe for nostalgic purposes. A few people still see on TV, but it's all going to either the internet or whatever the new incarnation will be that's even better than the internet. But it'll be the equivalent of online. I'm holding my phone in case it rings again. I don't know if this.
You're fascinating. I want to come down and have lunch with you.
I'll show you our studio and our garage.
All right. I'll pay, you pray. How's that? Thanks, Jerry, and thanks for the work you do. Let's stay in touch, my friend.
Thank you.
God bless. All right, we'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.